already.
Anna, we're good to go.
Good to go? Okay. Call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Everybody unmute yourselves so we can do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the flag,
the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God,
one nation under God,
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first, I want to say on behalf of Kelly, she was not able to be here today because she was actually doing a patient, her parent-teacher conferences tonight. So she said to tell everybody that she was sorry she had to miss, and she wanted to tell everyone Happy Black History Month. And then this is my first time running this meeting in a while, so everybody be patient. Could we do a roll call for attendance? Veronica?
Yes, Ms. Enriquez,
Here.
Ms. Santiago,
Present.
Mr. Jimenez. We know he's present. Ms. Alfaro, Ms. Hernandez,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Present.
Ms. Carlisle,
Present.
Ms. Velez,
Present.
seven members present and two absent.
7 members present, 2 absent. We continue. I wanted to provide that translation is available. The information is at the bottom of the agenda. The Zoom ID is 958-4663-3594. Also, on behalf of the translator, he requests that everybody please speak slowly so that he has time to translate everything that is presented. School committee meetings. We move on to agenda item number 3, school committee meetings. Motion to approve.
I make a motion to accept the school committee minutes from our last school committee meeting.
I second. Okay, moving on to item number 4, public comment. Today we will have a short presentation from CPAC. Are they logged on yet? Do we know?
Hi, I'm here. This is Angelica. Hello, everyone. The other 2 members are having difficulty logging into the room, so I'm working on that right now with them.
Okay. Okay. I also want to let everyone know that today, City Manager Tom Ambrosino will be coming in at the new business section for votes on our para and clerk contracts, just to let everyone know. So please give him a welcome when he does come in. He should be coming in around 7:30-ish.
I see that Karen is here, and
Hi, good evening, everyone. Carla is coming. Angela.
Angelica, we could get started. Perhaps we can just go back to her portion when she arrives, if you'd like.
yes, I think we can do that. I just sent her the link again.
Excellent. That sounds great. Whenever you're ready, Angelica.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As a former CPAC president, I'll start the meeting tonight. And it's a pleasure to be here for the first time as a CPAC member. We can go to the next slide. Who are we? We are parents, advocates of children with special needs in Chelsea, grassroots community leaders, volunteers for the Chelsea CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and we are a multilingual group of parents. All language speakers are welcome to join us. We currently have English, Spanish, and Portuguese speakers in our group. Next slide, please. And I'll introduce Karen. Karen is a former secretary of the CPAC, and she's the actual chairwoman right now at the CPAC. Karen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Angelica. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Zelaya. I am from Honduras. I have been living here in the United States for about 4 years. I'm a parent leader. Currently, I'm studying at BHCC. Early childhood education is my major, and I'm also working at East Boston Social Center. As a mother of a special needs child, advocating for children with special needs is one of my passions. I'm developing a Facebook page, Better Together Special Needs Chelsea, as a way to help parents looking for resources, parents looking for information and trainings and meetings and more. This is parent helping parents. I'm still improving my English, and yeah, that's all set. That's me.
Hi,
Thank
good
you.
evening. My name is Carlera Eta, and this year is my first year being a vice president and the chairwoman. I'm a mother advocate in the city of Chelsea, living for 18 years in this beautiful city. I'm a mother leader for at least 5 years and member of PLTI, National Parent Leadership Institute. I'm actively in school groups such as School Site Council at Berkeley School, Cali School. Also attending several special education courses help me to educate myself and support my family. Now, seeing the need existing in the community and the rise of children with special needs, I saw an opportunity to advocate and teach families about their rights and our children's rights. So I decided to take this opportunity and become a member of CPAC. Thank you for the opportunity.
And back to me. Again, I'm a former chairwoman from the CPAC, and I am a Portuguese, English, and Portuñol speaker. Portuñol is a mix of Portuguese and Spanish. Fun fact, a lot of the parents in Chelsea who see me speaking Spanish, they cannot tell where my accent is from. So I always tell them it's from Brazil. My Spanish is from Brazil. Since Brazil doesn't speak Spanish, it speaks Portuguese. I like to say I speak Portuñol. I'm a mother advocate of 2 children with special needs in Chelsea. My journey started by educating myself as well at the Parent Center Training Institute from the Federation for Children with Special Needs, which helped me advocate for my children and my community. I bring my immigrant background and parent lenses to collaborate with the school site council as well at the Berkowitz meetings. And most recently, I've been participating as a stakeholder at the IEP improvement plan at the state level. We actually had a meeting earlier. And I'll be participating at the early adopters of the IEP improvement process in Chelsea as well. I continue my work advocating for language access and language justice in Chelsea, especially for families of children with special needs. Finally, as a former CPAC president, I made the decision to step back and volunteer for the position of CPAC secretary in order to push our brilliant parents to the leadership position. It is with a pleasure to collaborate and advocate in behalf of our families. And I'll pass to Cindy.
So Cindy Rosenberg, the Administrator of Special Ed for our beautiful city. We have a wide range of CPAC participants, and all families are welcome. All families' voices count. I'm thankful for our CPAC officials and all our members. They really provide support to our staff and all families. We continue to advocate and prioritize families' rights, parents' rights, and really receive their voices, hear what they have to say, and feedback. We value the importance of expanding our knowledge together by listening, learning, and growing together through CPAC. And we really thank you for your time tonight. And we really want to repeat family engagement. And we hope tonight will really shine and hope that people will feel welcome to join us.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
I have a question. It's Rosemary.
Go ahead, Rosemary.
Thank you all for coming, and it's nice to see parent involvement. I'm very proud of you girls. How do you feel right now about the special needs children getting their education remotely? Is there anything that we can help you do as members of the Chelsea school community to help the special needs children make sure they're being taught the right way?
I feel like remote learning is a love and hate relationship right now. And we're all trying our best. Families, school staff, everyone is trying their best. And we are in a place that we don't have where to go. It's not much to be done right now. But again, it's a love and hate relationship. There are good things and bad things about it.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad for the parents because it's so hard for the children to learn remotely. And I can imagine how hard it is for the parents to help their children remotely too. So we'll work on this and have the state come up with some kind of idea of what we can do for these special needs kids because they're losing out on so much. Thank you for your participation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I would like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Roberto. I just want to say that throughout the past 3 or 4 years, I've seen Angelica, Karen, and Carla very involved in our community and taking advantage of what's offered to families. They are the perfect role models, and we need to work together with them to engage more families in the work that we do. Karen, I sat in a meeting last week with you or last month at the Chelsea Early Childhood Network. And let me tell you, your English is even better this time. Keep up the great work. That's what it is.
Thank you.
Fearless, go ahead, because you guys your opinion is very valuable. Okay, that's the only way that we are going to improve our schools, our community, is by listening to the parents. You know, I'm in the early childhood field, so whatever you need, I'm here to support you. I'm right here in the city for you. And Angelica, you've been a great leader in this. I congratulate you also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Roberta?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Just wanted to say again, thank you so much
Roberta?
for coming. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, cool. Yeah, just wanted to say thank you all for joining us today and for talking about your experience and you know what you are doing through CPAC, which I think is super important work. I just wanted to know, I saw that there was a bunch of meetings that you have coming up on the slides. If there's any way that we could just like get those with like invitations, I'd love to join and hear more about your perspectives. You know, outside of these meetings, which you know you're always welcome to join us for as well.
We'll make sure we put it on our district website.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that's a great recommendation.
I wanted to thank you all for coming. As a Hispanic woman, mother, it's always wonderful to see mothers empowered and doing for their children and working for these wonderful causes. So it brings me great honor and happiness to see immigrant women whose English, Karen, I can't believe that you've been here for such a short time. She says her English is not great. Her English is wonderful. I would never be able to speak another language. Being in a different country for 4 years, I can just picture myself. But thank you so much for all the work. And Roberto actually took my comment from me, which was that I would love to get to know those dates for those meetings so that I would be able to attend some of them. So thank you.
And Chairwoman Kelly Garcia came this past Friday night. So school committee is represented and we feel supported. Thank you so much to everyone.
Oh,
Marisol has her hand up.
she has a very special place. Marisol. Oh, I'm sorry, Marisol. Go ahead.
My internet's a little laggy. Can folks hear me okay?
Marisol?
Yeah, I think Anna's having some connectivity issues, so she's lagging a little. So I think she's on a delay.
That's why. Am I the delayed one? Am I delayed, guys? Maybe. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
I think you're on a delay,
Tell me.
but if you turn up your video, it might come through a little better.
Yeah.
Anna, you're on a little bit of a delay, so everything is.
That's my video.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's better now.
I know Marisol wanted to say something.
Marisol, you there?
Hey, yeah. Can folks hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to commend Angelica, Karen, and Carla for your presentation tonight and for coming here and sharing the importance of parent involvement. Angelica, you've been like my first go-to as a mom of a daughter on the spectrum and so resourceful and so helpful to me. And I want to make sure that, like, as everybody says here, not only for us to attend your meetings and support and get a better understanding of what's happening, but also gives me a lot of joy to see the space open for all of you to continue to come and share feedback and what you're hearing from parents. I think it's our obligation to listen and see where we could support parents directly any way that we can. So I'm just really happy and grateful that you all are here and Thank you for your continued efforts and your advocacy at the state level as well, which has been super, super impressive. So, mi gratitud y muchas gracias a todas. Sí.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I think Carl's.
Okay. Now I'm paranoid about being able to be heard. Okay. So now we'll move on to item number 5, presentations.
Vice Chair Hernandez, we don't have any presentations at this time. They'll be later on.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then we'll move on. Seeing none, we'll move on to number 6. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Dr. Almeida
Okay.
for the report of superintendents.
Great. Thank you so much. So as normal, we'll go on first to student achievement, and I'm going to turn that over to our Assistant Superintendent, Sarah Kent.
Good evening, everyone. Are the indicators of success being able to be seen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. All right. You should all have received a copy of these as well via email. Tonight, we only have a few indicators to share with you, but excitingly, as promised, we have attendance, which you've been patiently waiting for. So I really appreciate your patience with that as we worked out our new codes and things in Aspen. So tonight we're going to be doing our monthly indicators and then our mobility. So we're going to start on page 3, excuse me as I scroll, which is our attendance. So as you can see, our attendance has been very good, which is really exciting. And it also demonstrates a lot of work by our educators to engage our students and to reach out to those who are not attending. And there's just been a lot of work behind this, and I'd like to applaud and appreciate all of that work. So a couple of highlights. September here in, you'll see, was a short month for us because we had the 10 days of professional development at the beginning of the year. So there were only 10 school days in September. Then you'll see that as you move from September into October, November, in most cases, not across the board, but in most cases, at least pre-K to 5, those numbers improve. They improve from September to October to November. And as I was saying, that is the work of all of our educators really reaching out and connecting with families and having kids in school. So currently, you'll see that in grades 3 and 4, we are hitting our goal of attendance at 95%. And we're very close, K to 2. And we're over 90% in grades 5 through 10. And we're working hard in pre-K and 11 and 12. So pre-K, as you know, the littlest ones are really tough, and they usually require an adult to be with them. So that's a hard one. And 11 and 12 is both at the high school and the Chelsea Opportunity Academy. So those numbers are both schools combined. So if you could turn to page 6, we'll get to our dropout rate.
I'm sorry, I forgot if we do we do questions after you finish, or do we do questions kind of as we go?
Mind, if that would be
Yeah,
okay.
no, I'll do that.
And I'll be happy to answer anything that I can. So here on page 6, you can see that our dropout rate is at 1.16. That number is the same as last month. We haven't had any new dropouts registered through PIC in the month of January. That's partially paperwork and catching up and all the things that are going on, but it's also, we aren't necessarily having kids disenroll and leave, the paperwork lag. So just as a contrast, you'll see that last year at this time, we were at 3.60% here with 54. Right now we're at 18 with 1.16. This may jump next month when we catch up and paperwork follows, but there are no new dropouts. So if you turn to page 9, which will be our last indicator for the night, which is mobility, you will see that currently we've had a total of 735 students either come or go from our district this year so far. That's in comparison to 900 last year. So that's what we were just talking about. If you compare to last year, ELC and the kindergarten and elementary are about the same mobility as last year. But at the middle school and high school, we've seen less students moving in and out than we did in past years. So this little number underneath the table, which year to date is 12.38%. Last year at this time, we were at 14.4%. So we are a full 2 percentage points under where we were last year at this time with mobility. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go back to the attendance rate? I'm curious if we do we sorry, you mentioned that the high school includes COA and CHS. I was wondering if there's like what the difference is between the two.
So there's a large difference. As you know, the COA is undercredited, overage students who generally hold jobs and have tons of responsibility and are really juggling a lot. So CHS, as a school, that's all grades, has an 87%, whereas COA is in the 30s. So when you average that out, that's why I was bringing that up. Although the CHS has many, many more students than COA, so it's a mathematical.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments?
Great.
Thank you so much.
So the next part of our superintendent's report, which I'm very excited about, is our COVID-19 update. And so if you can recall, in the spring, we kind of jumped into remote learning, and it was all very hurry, do, shocking to everybody, but we've got to do this. And so the feedback that we had heard in the summertime was that we needed to improve our remote learning. So we focused on improving remote learning through family engagement, through better resources online, and our teachers really just leaned into remote learning. So we thought we would do a survey just to do a dipstick and just kind of get a pulse of what our families are thinking about remote learning. So I'm going to ask our Assistant Superintendent, Sarah Kent, and our Harvard resident, Ayal Bergman, to share the survey and the results from the survey. So I will let them take it from here.
Great, welcome. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Ayal and I are extremely excited to share this data with you tonight. As Dr. Abeda was saying, we sent this out to families and hoping to get feedback on a lot of work that has happened. And we're looking forward to sharing it with you. So just some basic facts about the survey itself. We administered it for a week in January, just recently, and families were reached, in various ways through text, phone call, the website, social media, all kinds of ways. And it was on a Google form. And we also, with the Google form, I'm going to slow down for the translator. I just got the high sign. With the Google form, we made sure that the first question asked, what is your preferred language? And from there, all the other questions were asked in that language. So we really feel that was great because it allowed, you didn't have to read both languages and navigate. It was, it was a choice. So the total sample size was about 2,276 responses, which represents about 38% of our students, which is wonderful. So we had more than a third of our students represented. And of the people who responded, 68% of them responded in Spanish. So the big question was, how satisfied are you with remote learning since September? As you can see from the pie chart, about 60% of folks were either quite satisfied or very satisfied, and about 20% were slightly satisfied or not satisfied at all. And I'm very proud of these results and the work that this represents from all of our educators. But I want to flash back a little bit to March. So when COVID hit, we went into what we started calling crisis teaching mode. We didn't even know what a Zoom was. We didn't have Chromebooks out. We didn't have hotspots to our kids. We were trying to figure it all out as the ground shifted underneath us. So it was very difficult. And we knew that. And it wasn't just Chelsea that was struggling. Throughout the state and throughout the country and the world, education was turned on its side. So through March and the spring, we worked the best we could to adapt. But then we knew we needed to do better for our students, and we started to reach out and gather information from various sources. And we had a parent advisory group. We created a task force. We did surveys. We did focus groups, and we heard, very loud and clear, where there were three things that people really wanted us to improve. The first was they wanted accountability for participation. They wanted, students to know that it mattered that they participated, came to school, and learned. Second, they wanted grades. They wanted accountability for students. And as I mentioned, they wanted attendance as well as participation, but not just being there, but actually participating. So as I mentioned, we created a task force this summer, and it had, I think, 52 people on it with different committees, 4 different committees. And we really worked hard at what it was we needed to do to make a plan and really make remote learning much improved. We called it Remote Learning 2.0 for the fall. That included increasing technology access. We had done our best to get Chromebooks out to everybody, but we were going to make sure that we got them out to everyone who needed them. We worked and wrote grants and got iPads to all our kindergarten students who didn't have technology before. We worked hard on family engagement and collaborating with parents and to make remote learning successful. And we also opened centers for online learning for students who wouldn't necessarily be able to do their remote learning at home and needed a safe space to learn. So the next question is another piece of data where here you can see the question was, given what you expected in September, how has your remote learning experience gone? And 2/3 of families said that it was much better or somewhat better than they expected, which is, just due to the hard work of so many educators, from principals to coordinators to coaches to leads to all educators all our tech department. There's so many people that contributed to this, but most of all, our teachers who have been working tirelessly to make remote learning work for our students. So this, as you notice in the lower categories, this has been cut in half. The last one, it was about 20%. Only about 10% say that it is worse than they expected or much worse than they expected. So that is really a great, great achievement. So what went into this? We did a lot of work over the summer with the curriculum team on curriculum maps. We spent a lot of time strategically purchasing online platforms that were interactive, collaborative, and allowed us to have more rigorous instruction. We worked really hard on schedules and having FaceTime with teachers, and every kid sees a teacher every day. That was one of our big pillars that we wanted to make sure happened. And then the commissioner gave us 10 days of professional development at the beginning of the year. And we leveraged those to do three things. First was to make sure the technology was out to our students. And that was a really heavy lift by our operations team. We also worked hard on trust visits and family engagement and talking to families in order to build relationships to make this work. And finally, we did a lot of development with our teachers on remote learning and had them collaborate to figure out the best ways to meet the needs of our kids. And that also turned into a website with resources for both parents and a website for resources for teachers. And it seems that we're making progress, which is wonderful. So this one is one we're all wrestling with. How difficult is it for your child to stay engaged in remote learning? So this is all over media. This is all over the state. It's all over everywhere talking about how hard it is for kids, especially young kids, but also teenagers, to engage in remote learning. And so, as we all know, it's not as interactive, it's not as social, it's not as fun as it is to be in person. And so this is not surprising that it is a little bit lower, but still, you know, it's quite difficult or very difficult for about a quarter of our kids, and it's somewhat difficult for another quarter of our kids. So we realize this and we're working on it. One thing I can say is that student voice in the classroom is increasing. There's more use of breakout rooms. There's more kids helping kids and talking to kids. We're getting better, but as I said, everywhere we're struggling with this. One thing I would like to call out is that our buildings have done a really, really good job of distributing materials with, books, art supplies, phys ed supplies, science stuff, so that our kids can read real books, do things hands-on at home. And that's been a heavy lift and really, really impressive. I've talked in other districts with other groups, and they say, what? Your kids have science stuff? I'm like, yeah, they've been put in bags and parents have picked them up and kids have this stuff. I was in a classroom the other day and the teacher said, get out your math journal, and counted down from 10. And every kid was back holding up their journal and their pencil within 10. It was great. So how concerned are you about your child's academic progress due to remote learning? We have 25% again that are quite concerned or very concerned. And we have everyone is at least slightly concerned. Only 31% are not concerned. Again, this is something we're working on throughout education and throughout the state of Massachusetts. What I can say is that we are really trying to monitor kids' progress so that we can make strong plans for how to adapt and support them. We are trying to know how kids are doing so that we can make adaptations and support them when time comes. And now I'm going to turn it over to Eyal, who's going to talk about the next couple of questions.
Thank you, Sarah.
The next question we asked was, how concerned are you about your child's mental health due to remote learning? In Spanish, this was, ¿qué tan preocupado estás con la salud mental de su hijo dado el aprendizaje remoto? And what we see is that about half of all families reported that they're not at all concerned. 16%, or about 1 in 6, are indicating that they're very concerned or quite concerned. We think that this could be a good sign that there's less concern, but it can also be a little bit hard to interpret this data because people define mental health, people define salud mental in really different ways, and it can be very contextual, and it's very culturally contextual as well. But we thought it was important to ask and to give families a chance to weigh in on this question. We also asked families about how satisfied they are with the amount of time their child spends on Zoom. It's worth noting that this survey was available and it closed just before we adjusted the middle school and the high school schedule, given that DESE required us to do so. And we were very explicit in the question that we asked families to rate their experience since September, thinking backwards throughout the course of the year. And what we see is that about 20% wish there was less time on Zoom, about 15% wish that there was more time on Zoom. It's a fairly even distribution, but the vast majority of families, 61%, think that it's about right. So it's pretty evenly distributed, and there's pretty wide satisfaction with the amount of time on Zoom. We also wanted to ask about internet access, but we didn't want to ask simply, do you have internet access, yes or no? We wanted to ask in a more nuanced way so that we could get a more detailed understanding of what families are going through. So we asked, do you have consistent, reliable internet access in your home? Please do not include cell phone service in your response. So what we found is that about half of families said, yes, it's reliable all the time. About a third of families said, yes, it's reliable most of the time. But still, about 13% said, no, look, we have internet access, but it's not fully reliable. And 2% of families said, no, we do not have internet access in our home. And we know that this is the case really across the state. It's the case across the country. There was an article in the Globe about this just the other day. And CPS, we're using grant funds to distribute hotspots as soon as we learn of any internet connectivity challenges. They are not perfect. We've all had connectivity issues here and there. So, and we see this in the open response comments towards the end, which I'll explain at the end. But we're seeing, we're responding, and we're trying to make internet access as available as possible, given the constraints of the situation. We also wanted to dig in and try to understand the nuances behind what parents feel are the most difficult parts of remote learning and what are the best parts about remote learning. So the way that we framed this question was, we said, what have been the most difficult parts of remote learning? And we offered a range of answer choices. In this case, there were 8 answer choices. And we said, you can select up to 4. So they could select 1, they could select 2, they could select 3, or they could select 4. And the idea behind this question is to sort of act as a forcing function. If you have to choose, there are a lot of difficult parts about remote learning, but what are the most difficult parts about remote learning? And the way to read this is, if you look at the first bar, that's the first answer choice. Each bar represents a different potential answer choice. And what we see is that the most difficult part for the most families is that it is hard to balance my work and life while also helping my child learn. And the 760 there is the 760 families that responded, that chose that as one of their 4 options, which equates to 33%, or a third of all responses. the big takeaway from this slide is that there is a fairly even distribution as far as what folks are saying is the most difficult part about remote learning. So there's none of these bars are over 50%. So even at the top, let's say vote getter, the top concern with remote learning was 33%, which means that 2/3 of people who responded did not select that, which doesn't mean that it's not important. It just means that people were selecting a lot of different responses. There wasn't a clear most difficult challenge that everybody was selecting. So the top most difficult part was that the balancing work and life, and then also struggling academically, children struggling academically, children struggling socially. And the least vote getters at 10% and 11% were there's not enough space in the home or there's unreliable access to internet. So, you know, when we look at this data and we compare it to the previous data, it's helpful to start to see how it shakes out relative to the full range of possible challenges that folks are feeling in the community. This really contrasts to the next question when we ask what are the best parts about remote learning. So I'll go back to the most difficult part. The number one response, the most difficult part, received 33% of all responses. But when we ask what is the best part about remote learning, we see that the top one jumps up nearly double that at 62%. And what we're seeing is families are saying loud and clear that the best part about remote learning is that they can ensure that their child is safe. That is the clear takeaway from this slide and also from a lot of the open-ended responses that I'll share in just a moment. We also saw a lot of responses around families wanting to be able to spend more time, or families being able to spend more time with their children during the day and being able to see what their children are learning more often. There was a lot of support for being able to be in better communication with children's teachers and just getting a better sense of what teachers go through on a day-to-day basis, being in the home, acting as a bit of a surrogate teacher at times. But again, the clear takeaway is that safety is paramount and families really see that as the best part about remote learning. So then, to round out the survey, we gave families the option to share anything that they would like for us to know about their experience with remote learning since September. This was an optional question. They could write in anything they wanted. We saw over 500 total responses, so there's a real appetite out there to share what they're experiencing. And I'm going to share in a moment a few quotes that really stood out. And you should know that each of the quotes are emblematic of themes that came up. So they don't sort of stand on their own. They are part of a theme that we saw throughout the comments. So again, we saw many, many comments about gratitude and about appreciation for remote learning so that their kid, because families really feel that it's much safer for their kids. There were a lot of comments also about it starting a little rough. I think that it was a big adjustment for a lot of people. So this family is saying that they didn't have much experience using a computer, but that things got better. And there was many, many comments about gratitude for teachers and the support that they've received over the course of the year, and that they can really see for themselves, because families can look into the classroom much more than they've ever could before, and they're responding with a lot of gratitude. Again, started out rough, but my kid's doing great, and I love to be able to see her learn. And at the same time, what we also see is that families, while they are, for the most part, expressing that they're satisfied with remote learning, that it doesn't come without its challenges. And so people in the open responses were being very open and honest and reflective about that. And so we see one comment here about, you know, I've had to make some tough decisions about my work or my students' learning. And just as some feel that their kids are doing great, not everybody is reporting that they're feeling great. This is just an honest assessment. This mother felt that her child is bored. There were a number of comments about internet connectivity and and how the internet support is helpful, but again, it's not a cure-all, and we've heard that. And then finally, there was questions about, okay, we're not in an ideal situation. What is tomorrow gonna look like? Questions about that. So to me, the big takeaway at the end of all this is that a lot of families are really holding multiple truths at the same time. They are saying, on the one hand, this has gone better than we expected. We are fairly satisfied with how remote learning has gone. It's not without its challenges, and the two things can exist at the same time. And just a lot of gratitude for teachers and gratitude for the school for all the hard work that they're doing on behalf of their children in this really challenging time. And with that, we'll take your questions.
I would like to ask a question.
Sure.
When doing the survey, that you asked the families the grade of the child, so do we know how many of the high school parents took it middle school or elementary school, or it was just a general survey and that wasn't asked?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer. Yes, we did. So we asked the school and we asked the grade. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, that whole mental health number, I don't think it's accurate. And like you said, culturally, there's still a lot of parents out there that even when they get COVID and I reach out, they're scared even to say they have it because they're feeling, you know, some type of way. And I know culturally for me, you never talked about mental health. You were not depressed. You just sucked it up and you kept going. So, you know, so that number concerns me. And I'm glad that some people did admit that they have concerns, but I think mental health is something that we need to keep on top of and constantly communicate with our parents, because they're not going to really open up to us and tell us unless we really build that relationship and let them know that we're here to help. And I think over the years, mental health has been coming up more, and even in our community, so people are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, but still not everybody is talking about it. So that's all I had. But overall, I'm pleased to see the survey and the results of it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I think Roberto has his hand.
Yeah, can I chime in with a comment? Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is just thank you so much for doing the survey. I know that, you know, this has been like the big question on so many people's minds for so long. And I just want to say it feels incredibly validating to see that so many parents have been understanding of the situation that we're in, and it feels like we're being validated for having made the right decisions, right? Like we know that there's pressure coming from a lot of places not in this city for us to reopen, and we have, you know, really stuck to our guns, and this shows us that we've made the right decision and what our parents, you know, think is the right thing to do, right? 62% saying that they feel that their children are safe. Like that is in my opinion much more important, right? That is the most important thing, is making sure that people understand that their children are safe. So I just, you know, we just want to again just say thank you so much for doing this. And you know, we know that there are challenges in our community, and we've been hardest hit pretty much in the state. So we know that there's many challenges, and we see that, right? Like we see that in the mental health breakdown and the, you know, challenges that like students are facing challenges, right? But so is everybody else. So it makes sense that, you know, some people are, but it feels very good to see that, you know, even within this disaster that we're in, people are being understanding, and a lot of our children are still getting a lot of good things from remote learning. And so the other thing I want to do is also thank you know, our staff, our educators, everybody who has been, you know, putting in so much time and effort into making sure that we are providing as good of an education as we can. If every district out there besides us had actually like put in as much time and effort into making remote learning the best version of itself that it could be, we'd probably be in a much different place. So anyway, thank you to all of you here in this meeting, and to everybody who has been working so hard both on the staff side and students and parents as well.
Am I missing anyone? Anybody else have any comments? I have, if I have no one else doesn't. Oh, Marisol has her hand up. Go ahead, Marisol.
Thank you. Same sentiment. Just want to thank everybody for their work on putting out this survey. Almi for getting it right out, and like you said, doing the dipstick. It's really good, and to get some feedback. I, as a parent, had to fill it out, and I absolutely loved it and noticed right away the language choice at the beginning, which I thought was like amazing and great. And I also had some feedback about it too. As a parent, Jomi goes to the Berkowitz, and I'm sort of taking some of the feedback that Sarah was sharing, and also AL. And what comes up, what I'm thinking about here in terms of like going forward now, based off these good feedback that we've received, how do we continue to improve like the engagement piece? And what are ways that we could close that gap a little bit? Part of the things that I gave feedback about was, perhaps more student breakouts. Just last week, the Berkowitz had a student assembly, and it was amazing, like doing more activities that actually give the kids a sense of community, maybe some of the things that we as parents and as kids miss, being in the building together and coming together to celebrate like all these accomplishments. And so when I gave feedback, I noticed that there's been immediately student breakouts. Jomi's teacher, Mr. Plea, is amazing. Shout out to Mr. A and the team there, no doubt about it. But I think that sentiment is pretty much across the board, the willingness to want to improve and keep working with what we've been doing. So I think like, thinking of ways to close, how can we close some of the engagement piece, maybe reaching people, could we tap organizations when we do another survey in the future, and really see if we can, dig in a little deeper. But the numbers still, given, the total amount of families we have in the district versus the ones that responded, is pretty good. So that, checking that box too. And then the last thing I just wanted to say about this too is the trust visits. So trust visits were, I can't speak to every school and what I saw, what I know, my limited knowledge, but I feel like I wonder what would be the right amount of time for that. If, the 20 minutes feels better, or, that it's not too long for the teachers and too much, because there's a lot of families that you have to really talk to for it to be meaningful. And I get that. But wondering, if that's something that we could do, like another round of trust visits, or, what feedback are the teachers giving based on, having seen this feedback from the surveys and also around the trust visits. So I think that's something to maybe look at, in the next couple of months, to measure and keep doing well, right? And to also think about how can we like dig in even further. But appreciate all the work that everybody's doing on this.
Thank you, Marisol. Anyone else? No? I too want to say thank you. I was very happy to see this report. It was great data, great information, very helpful. I too am very concerned, like Jeanette said. I think us as a culture, Spanish people and Latinos in general, we shy away from speaking about depression or any type of anxiety, anything to do with emotional problems. We have a hard time with, and this coming from a woman whose mother had suffered from depression her entire life. We didn't have a problem with it, but a lot of our culture does. You do hide it and try to not talk about it. And I also worry about the kids with attention deficit and those kids that are trying to concentrate on remote learning. My nephew has it and is having an extremely hard time with this remote learning. He unfortunately doesn't live in Chelsea because I think he would be doing okay if he was living in Chelsea. But where he is, he's not doing well. So those are two areas that I concern myself a lot with. But I think when you ask Spanish people about their children's mental condition, and they get they'll get very protective of that, and they'll always say that it's fine. So we have to build a very strong relationship with these parents for them to open up and say if there is true issues, because I find it hard to believe that we don't have any, or that the number is so minimal. But the report's great and information's wonderful, and it was great to see, and we'll continue to work on this. And I'm sure that you guys will continue as you always do and get even better information for us next time. Thank you. Elmi, you're muted.
Next, we have our student representative update.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As of right now, the big thing that I've seen in Chelsea High is a big discussion and about signing petitions towards the Columbus statue. It's something that I've been hearing for like the past week or so. A lot of mentioning, a lot about signing petitions and stuff. Again, another worry for the students with the closing quarter and the opening of the third quarter is attendance policy, especially the E policy. With the 3 absences, you get an automatic E. It worries students a lot because, sometimes we get kicked out. Personally, I've gotten kicked out a few times because of my incident, and I've been marked absence. I'm pretty sure that second quarter was waived, not 100% positive. But yeah, that's one of the big worries. So another part is the graduation planning. We are, looking towards that. We are actually setting up a senior assembly this coming Thursday. Next week Thursday, yeah. To get the feedback of seniors, what they want in their swag bags and all those ideas. In college, there's been a lot of college acceptances letters from colleges ranging from Tufts, BU, as well as all the UMSs, Suffolk, Salem, and a lot of scholarship acceptance letters as well. And that's what I got so far.
Thank you.
Ms. Hernandez, may I ask a follow-up question real quick?
Oh, absolutely, Marisol. Go ahead.
Richard, thank you for sharing. Is it okay can you talk a little bit more about your petitions? And I heard you mention something around the attendance policy. That's something that I actually want to bring up in another subcommittee, but can you share a little bit more about both the petition for the statue and what do you mean by that? Is that there's a petition circulating because there are students that have strong feelings or feedback about something involving the statue? And then also, if you could just share, and this could be like 1 or 2 little sentences. I don't mean to, it's okay for what you shared, but if it'd just be helpful for me to understand what's happening on both. What are you hearing?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't specific enough, but yeah, there's a lot of, I've heard a lot of talk about signing a petition to bring the statue down because it's not an adequate representation of, Chelsea. I know that there's a lot of people who don't feel well represented and sometimes feel offended, especially for all my history students that really know their history. They're really, offensive, and they're really not really proud and not really positive about having a statue about Columbus. So there's a lot of, there's a petition that everyone is signing about bringing it down, having some sort of meeting about bringing it down. About the e-policy, we have multiple discussions, especially in all the extracurriculars that I've been part of. The e-policy is something that worries a lot of students, especially with those that have internet connections that, have problems with internet connections. Because, as you may know, the e-policy is 3 absences, you get automatic 59.9. And we've been marked absence even when we are present or when our connection is, really bad. And we just don't want our, internet problems to like get in the way of our grades and stuff. And yeah.
If I can comment on the attendance policy that was waived for Q2. So.
Thank you for confirming.
Yeah, make sure you let everybody know that and get the word out.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to our personnel update and our enrollment reports. So I'm going to, excuse me as I switch over. And I'm going to scroll down. Okay, so these are our personnel changes since January 4th of 2021. And you can see all our new hires. You will see some paraprofessionals there as we have worked to reduce class size. So you'll see that, and our demographic data. HR department doing a great job of recruiting, in this case, 60% Hispanic. And then you'll see our resignations and retirements, very few right now. And then our enrollment report, our attendance is very stable at 6,048. So I would like to commend the personnel update to the report and the enrollment report as well. Okay. And then our subcommittee reports.
I would like to make a motion to accept all the subcommittee meeting minutes and commend them to the record.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. With that, we move on to item number 7, which is unfinished business. And I see we have none. We move on to item 8, which is new business. Christine, is Tom
will be
yet? Excuse me?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen, Christine, and go through the presentation. And Tom is going to join us in just a little bit. I'll text him.
Okay, great.
Should I wait or should I?
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, school committee. Good to see all of you tonight. I'm really excited to present to you the paraprofessional and clerk contracts that we have been able to ratify with the unions. So today, again, I'll be presenting the agreements that we've come to with the paraprofessional unit and the clerical unit. And then after this presentation, I'll take any questions, and then you all will vote on the agreement. I wanted to start off by highlighting our negotiating principles, similar to our negotiating principles when I presented the teacher contract. We wanted to always, number one, do what's in the best interest of our students. We think and we know and believe that our students are amazing and they are the focus of our contracts and how we try to come to common ground. Second, we wanted to deepen and extend the culture of care to students and all of our staff who work in our schools. Dr. Beta has from the very beginning spoken about the culture of care that we are striving for. This is a place in Chelsea that we want everyone to belong in this community and to be cared for. Third, we emphasized wanting to reduce turnover and find ways to incentivize staff staying in our district. We always want to make sure that we're keeping strong talent in our district. And lastly, we wanted to make sure that we're focusing on increasing our salaries as fiscally responsible and prudent within our limited resources. Here is a list of the team that was made up on the teachers union side and also on the management side. You could see that we had a very robust team of paraprofessionals who volunteer their time to be part of this process because they care deeply about making sure that their voices were represented. And just to mention, we had a similar team as our teacher's contract with the addition of Michelle Martinello, principal of the Wright. Here are some highlights from the agreement for the paraprofessional contract. It's a one-year agreement. There are always a few housekeeping items, some language that we clean up, and so that was one of the items that we had added. A few language changes are listed here. Number one, we expanded the definition of who is included in the bereavement days that people are able to use to include, for example, grandchildren. We also allowed for additional days for religious leave purposes, and we made a few changes on the grievance procedures. Some additions to highlight, we increased the first bullet is that paraprofessionals will be compensated at their hourly rate for attending meetings before and after school. We believe that it was very important that they're compensated appropriately for attending staff meetings. We also increased severance pay to $50 for unused sick days. So if someone retires, they are able to buy back some of this time, and so we increased the rate. We also included an increase to substitute class coverage. So when paraprofessionals cover for classes, we increased it to $10 an hour plus their hourly rate, whereas before it was $9.50. We also believe that with paraprofessionals receiving tuition reimbursement, which we believe that taking on more classes is very important in their career development. However, we want our staff to stay in the district. And so if a paraprofessional leaves in the district before their 4th year, then they will have to pay back 50%. However, if they leave after their 4 years, completing their commitment to Chelsea Public Schools, then there isn't any payment that's required. But we believe that this will hopefully help the paras that we invest in will continue to grow in their career at Chelsea. We adopted similar maternity, paternity, adoptive leave language as the teachers, and similarly with the domestic violence. And with the maternity, paternity, adoptive leave, again, it's a really important point that we have come to, because now the paraprofessionals are also able to take up to 12 work weeks of paid leave, whereas before it was only 8 weeks. And for paternity, it was only 2 weeks. And so now, for these reasons, we believe it really highlights the culture of care in our district. And in terms of salaries, we agreed to a 3% salary increase for paraprofessionals, which is slightly higher than the other units, because we wanted to make sure that we bring them up to where we believe that they should be placed at. The second contract that we negotiated was a clerical contract. You'll see the team here on the union side and on the Chelsea school side. With the clerical unit, we actually were able to come to a 3-year agreement. We again had a few housekeeping items that we made a few adjustments with. A few language changes similar to the paraprofessional contract. The funeral leave section, for example, includes an expansion of the definition of who you can use your bereavement days for, such as grandchildren. And we also added additional days for religious purposes, and again, updated the grievance procedures. A few additions. One, we have decided to have a joint study and make recommendations about possibly having clerks working from home on a snow day on a regular basis. We had a lot of discussion about this, but we believe that, we still are learning about this remote environment and, what can be accomplished at home, what needs our attention on site. And so this committee will look into what we can do. Similar to the paraprofessional, we agreed to clerical unit members who receive tuition reimbursement. If they leave before their 4th year, then they will owe the district back 50%. And again, it's not to punish our clerks, but it's rather to help incentivize our clerks who are pursuing their degrees to stay in our district and to continue on in their career trajectory in Chelsea Public Schools. Again, maternity, paternity, adoptive leave, and our domestic violence leave language was updated. And again, we've extended the 12 work weeks for our clerical members. And for salaries, we agreed to a 2% increase for the next 3 years of their contract duration, which is backdated to the beginning of this school year until school year 22-23. So today you will vote if you're in agreement, and then because the paras and clerks had already voted to approve this contract on the 22nd, and then our city manager will also vote on committing municipal funds for our agreement. So that is the presentation of our contracts. Are there any questions?
Yes, Christine. Can you share why is it a matter of timing in terms of why the city manager needs to bring this for municipal funds in contrast to other contracts that we've been doing? Is the funding different here for the paras and clerks, or is it because of the budget process?
Right, it's the city manager votes on the contracts, our agreements. I don't know if Dr. Veda, you have more context.
Correct. because all our funds do flow through the city, our city manager has to vote on all our contracts. So it's Chapter 70 funds flow through the city to us. And so as a result of that, our city manager on only the contracts will vote on all the contracts.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, I just think like when we talk about like the teachers or any other contracts, and then I just, in my head, I'm viewing that as like part of our budget within the school. And then I'm thinking like, there's a time where we present the budget, but this is like just strictly contracts talk. Yeah.
Correct. And all our funds do flow through the city to us.
I had a quick question. I'm curious. The tuition reimbursement. Like, are there like exceptions? Like, I'm just thinking like kind of crazy scenarios where like somebody like has like some reason where they just like decide that they can't continue to work, like a medical reason or something like that. Like, is there language in there, or is that something that we could waive ourselves if we needed to? I'm curious.
Yeah, we had discussed that with the union, and per the superintendent's approval, we would absolutely make some considerations. There are life events that happen, and we completely understand that. And so we went into the agreement recognizing that there would be some extenuating circumstances where, we would need to make an exception.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So at this time, I believe if you will vote on whether or not you approve and ratify these contracts.
Do I need to make a motion to approve the contracts?
Christina, thank you. I'll get the wording up.
Okay.
I have a question though, Christine. Should Mr. Ambasino speak also before we do this, or?
I'm fine with both contracts.
Thank you.
Okay, a roll call? I'm gonna read the consideration and action. Okay. So consideration and action to vote on the collective bargaining agreement between the Chelsea School Committee and the Chelsea Teachers Union, Paraprofessional Union for the period of July 1st, 2020, June through June 30th, 2021. Item number 21SCO010. Explanation: the Chelsea School Committee approves the collective bargaining agreement between the Chelsea School Committee and the Chelsea Teachers Union Paraprofessional Unit for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, including amendments set forth in the Memorandum of Agreement ratification by the Chelsea Teachers Union on January 22nd, 2021.
Roll call. Consideration and action to vote on the collective bargaining agreement between the Chelsea School Committee and the Chelsea Teachers Unit, the Paraprofessional Unit, for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Ms. Enriquez?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Jimenez Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Carlisle?
Yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
Mr. Ambrosino?
Yes.
That's 8 in the affirmative and 2 absent.
8 in the affirmative and 2 absent. Motion passes. Next, consideration and action to vote on the collective bargaining agreement between the Chelsea School Committee and the Chelsea Teachers Union Clerical Unit for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. Item number 21SC011. Explanation: the Chelsea School Committee approves the collective bargaining agreement between the Chelsea School Committee and the Chelsea Teachers Union Clerical Unit for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023, including amendment set forth in memorandum of agreement ratified by the Chelsea Teachers Union on January 22nd, 2021. Roll call.
Consideration and action to vote on the collective bargaining agreement between the Chelsea School Committee and the Chelsea Teachers Union Clerical Union for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. Ms. Enriquez?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Jimenez Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Carlisle?
Yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
Mr. Ambrosino?
Yes.
It's 8 in the affirmative and 2 absent.
8 in the affirmative, 2 absent. Motion passes. Next, consideration and action to vote on the non-bargaining salary and wage schedules for hourly positions and salaried positions for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Item number 21SC012. Explanation: each year, the school committee reviews and approves the non-bargaining salary and wage schedule for hourly positions and salaried positions. These are positions that are not subject to any bargaining agreement. To respond to changes in the state minimum wage in the city of Chelsea living wage, an increase in some hourly positions is recommended effective January 1st, 2021. In addition, a few modest changes are being recommended to the ranges for salary positions to allow for cost of living increases for non-union positions and to keep the district competitive with salaries in the region. It is requested that the salary increases be effective July 1st, 2020. Roll call.
Consideration and action to vote on the non-bargaining salary and wages scheduled for hourly positions and salaried positions for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Ms. Enriquez?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Jimenez Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson? You're on mute.
Yes.
Ms. Carlisle?
Yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
That's 7 in the affirmative and 2 absent.
7 in the affirmative and 2 absent. The motion passes. Next, consideration and action to accept $31,471 from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the IDEA Federal Targeted Special Education Program Improvement Grant, item number 21SC013. Explanation: the purpose of the Targeted Special Education Program Improvement Grant is to support improved outcomes for students with disabilities in all modes of instruction, including in-person, hybrid, and remote. The funds will be used to purchase logistics materials for middle school students, provide specialized reading support, and target a higher number of students with disabilities and other expenses in support of the program. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 37A provides for the acceptance of grants only with the approval of the Chelsea School Committee. Roll call.
Consideration and action to accept $31,471 from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the IDEA Federal Targeted Special Education Program Improvement Grant. Ms. Enriquez?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Jimenez Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Carlisle?
Yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
It's 7 in the affirmative and 2 absent.
7 in the affirmative, 2 absent, motion passes. Consideration and action to accept $4,218 for the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the Early Childhood Targeted Special Education Program Improvement and Safety Grant, item 21SC14. Explanation. Development and other expenses in support of the program for school year 2020 through 2021. Massachusetts law, chapter 71, section 37A provides for the acceptance of grants only with the approval of the Chelsea School Committee. Roll call.
Consideration and action to accept $4,218 from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the Early Childhood Targeted Special Education Program Improvement and Safety Grant. Ms. Enriquez?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Did I get lost? But I'm so sorry, Vero, help me out. It'd be a yes, but I thought we just, maybe I got confused with what was on the screen. I thought we were.
There's similar wording there, but they're two different grants.
Okay, got it. Yes, sorry, yes.
Mr. Jimenez Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Carlisle?
Yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
It's 7 in the affirmative and 2 absent.
7 in the affirmative and 2 absent, motion passes. Next, consideration and action to accept an increase of $14,000 to the Adult Education Services Grant for the Intergenerational Literacy Program for school year 2020 through 2021, item 21SC15. Explanation: the Adult Education Services Grant helps adult students achieve their educational and career goals, including moving towards college, further training, and employment. The district is eligible for an increase of $14,000 this year to address increased costs resulting from the pandemic and the program's participation in the Teaching Skills That Matter project. These funds will be used for salaries and benefits, professional development, software, hardware, PPE, I'm not sure what that stands for, and other expenses in support of the program. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 37A, provides for the acceptance of gifts only with the approval of the Chelsea School Committee. Roll call.
Consideration and action to accept an increase of $14,000 to the Adult Education Services Grant for the Intergenerational Literacy Program for school year 2020 through 2021. Ms. Enriquez?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Jimenez Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Carlisle?
Yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
That's 7 in the affirmative and 2 absent.
7 in the affirmative and 2 absent, motion passes. Next, consideration and action to accept the resolution regarding the recognition Black History Month in Chelsea Public Schools, school year 2020 through 2021, item number 21SC16. Explanation: the Chelsea School Committee hereby encourages all students, faculty, administrators, parents, and guardians to recognize February as Black History Month and to honor the theme of Black family, leadership, and service. Roll call.
Consideration and action to accept the resolution regarding the recognition of Black History Month in Chelsea Public Schools.
I'm sorry. Can I, before we do that, can we just Can I just make a motion to read the resolution out loud? Wonder if we could do that.
Sure.
I'm also looking for the enclosure.
It's like
the
all the
motion's
way-
read, it's helpful.
It's page
Yeah.
42. I have it up if I'm happy to read it if you'd like me to.
Could you?
Yeah. Resolution regarding Black History Month recognition for Chelsea Public Schools. Whereas in 1926, famed African-American historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson established Negro History Week to celebrate Black history, accomplishments, diversity, and achievements. Whereas Carter G. Woodson valued education and believed that it was never too late to learn, it is beneficial for all Americans to continue to learn about the heritage and the experiences of all Americans. And whereas it is through learning that we become enlightened and come to understand each other more clearly, and whereas Black History Month allows for discussions of our country's legacy of slavery, institutional and structural racism, whereas this year's theme for 2021 Black History Month is Black Family, Leadership, and Service, and we are honoring Dr. Almudena Aveta, Dr. Aaron Jennings, Christine Lee, Dr. Reverend Sandra Whitley, City Manager Tom Ambrosino, City Solicitor Cheryl Watson-Fisher, Tamara Blake Canty, Joan Cromwell, Councillor Robinson, and Councillor Brown for their service, representation, and leadership, not only in the department, but in the community as well. Now, therefore, resolved that the Chelsea School Committee hereby recognizes February as Black History Month, Black Family, Leadership, and Service. Thank you to the Lewis H. Latimer Society, Bunker Hill Community College, Reverend Sandra Whitley, Chelsea Public Schools, and the Chelsea Black community for their contributions to the city of Chelsea and beyond. In witness whereof, we, the members of the Chelsea School Committee, have hereunto set our hands this 4th day of February 2021.
Thank you, Roberto. My eyesight's not great. I'm trying to read the writing and I'm like, oh,
no worries.
May I ask a follow-up question? Who is this a resolution presented to the school committee, like a member of the school committee proposed this?
Yeah, it was me who proposed it.
Sorry, who proposed? One person. Okay, Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
I was going to propose an amendment because your name's not on there, Mr. Wilson.
It's down below, and I include the members also. Member of the Chelsea School Committee, my name, and also I include the rest of the school committee members also. I acknowledge them as well.
Got it. I'm glad to see your name's on there. I would propose an amendment to make sure your name's on there, but if you presented it and you feel comfortable with it as it's stated, then that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, anyone, or?
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Henry.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So are we ready to vote?
Sure. Consideration and action to accept the resolution regarding the recognition of Black History Month in Chelsea Public Schools. Ms. Enriquez?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Jimenez Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Carlisle?
Definitely yes.
Ms. Velez?
Yes.
That's 7 in the affirmative and 2 absent.
7 in the affirmative, 2 absent. Motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you very much for all your work, Henry. Next item, number 9, communications. Seeing none. Are there any announcements?
I just want to recognize Leo Robinson. He's at this meeting today. He's the delegate from the City Council.
I want to recognize our one and only, the best clerk we ever had for the school committee since I've been on it for a year and a half almost. I want to recognize Veronica Medina for her acknowledgement for Kiwanis. So this month or last month?
This month, yes.
This
Thank
month.
you.
So congratulations to Veronica.
Congratulations.
Also, again, it is Black History Month. We've had so far 2 events. one at City Hall, one at the Old Salvation Army for arts and pictures. We had a discussion last night, history from the Carey House, and we have other upcoming events coming up. So hopefully the rest of the school committee members and their families out there watching will be able to participate through Zoom. At our very special event. And I want to once again congratulate the members of acknowledgement from the resolution that I put together today, presented today, because both, if you look at the school department, how it is, it's from the leadership all the way through her cabinet members, it's representing a great change in our city, in our schools, so we want to recognize each and every one of them. So thank you guys for supporting me on that.
Thank you.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes. Marisol, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. I too feel very honored, and thank you, Mr. Wilson, for putting that acknowledgement forward. And I think it's something very beautiful to celebrate in this district, especially in this month. I recognize that this is sort of the announcement section, but I did want to share that, our meeting last month, and the timing, our school committee meetings for the broader community, just as a reminder, they're the first Thursday of every month. And, I really want to applaud the superintendent, Dr. Abeda, for sending out a letter in communication to our districts about some of the situations and the atrocities that occurred in our capital. And I have received communication from people that feel good about that communication. And thank you, Alma, for your leadership, because you did it because it felt right and it was necessary. And I applaud you for that. And likewise, I think there's other members in the community that are also sharing with me that they've noticed nothing concerning to the community by far, first and foremost, nothing concerning, nothing involving safety, thankfully. But it's just a reminder that people are perceive, whether it is subtle or not too subtle, racist behavior anywhere. I just really want to encourage you to speak up, and that it's not right and that it's not okay. And wherever it happens, most certainly not on our school grounds, not around our children, not around educators. We want our district to always be welcoming to everyone. So I just really want to just say, in light of what's happening and going forward, as we continue to, have the democracy that we believe we can have and that we deserve to have, that folks don't feel that they cannot reach out to us at any given point. At least for myself, please feel free to reach out. If there's anything that we can do to listen, or if there's observations that make you uncomfortable, whether to understand if it's a concern or not, right? We just want to make sure that we're keeping our ears open. But I'm really grateful for the district that we're in, that has the cultural competency and the leadership that I witnessed, given the circumstances that unfolded. But my commitment stands the same. We're all part of this together. And so just want to communicate that, if there are uncomfortable situations or uncomfortable conversations, to reach out to us so that we can help be part of the solution to make sure that we keep getting stronger and stronger as a community.
Thank you very much. Totally agreed. Everything that you said is so true. And I, along with Rosemary, Jeanette, we've been around, not as long as Rosemary, but enough years to say that it makes me so happy to see the changes that have occurred in our school committee, in our schools, in our administration, just across the board. The school committee I joined is not anywhere near, does not even look like the school committee I sit on right now, and I'm so happy for that. We have such a mixture and such a different, it's like a melting pot of different cultures, and everybody has such wonderful things to add, and that makes me so happy, because Chelsea is not your average town. So we by no means can have an average school committee or school system, and we don't. We have an amazing one. So I'm very proud of the city that we're in and the school committee that we now have. And on that note, does anyone else have anything else other than wanting to go home?
I just want to make a note to the people over the age of 75 in the city of Chelsea that you can go down to Broadway next to the post office and get your first vaccination. And I hope you all take part in this because it's very important for the city of Chelsea that we get all our senior citizens vaccinated. Thank you very much.
And if I can make a comment before you end.
Yes.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Leo.
All right, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Wilson and the school committee for recognizing February as Black History Month. But in my life, Black history is all year round. And there's a book I would suggest that people can take a look at with all the controversy and stuff going around. It's called The Lies My Teacher Told Me. You know, but I just wanted to thank the school committee as a whole and wish everybody a pleasant new year.
Thank you so much, Leo. You as well.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Anybody second it?
A second.
There we go. Love spending time with y'all, but you know nobody wants to leave.
It's an amazing.
I'm not sure you're ready to adjourn. I'm just kidding.